Imagine walking into a blind date, like at a coffee shop per se. And imagine that you have like a massive facial scar, like all the way from the bridge of your nose, all the way to your forehead, which I actually do have a scar on the middle of my forehead here. Anyways, would you feel judged because of this? Would you feel like stared at in a bad way because you have this scar? Would you feel like maybe she rejected you because of your scar? Or what if altogether there's actually no visible scar that is there, or maybe they can't even see it? What if, in a term of speaking, this was an emotional scar that you brought to every interaction in your entire life? Then what would be the possible reason that you'd be rejected? Ask yourself this. What if I told you that this has actually been documented in even the scientific literature? I'll get to it in a bit. But the point is plainly this. This failure that people have in social situations, it stems from how people see themselves more so than anything, right? And most of you are walking into dating this exact same way, just plainly. Like, you think it's about your height because you are too short or something. Or you think it's your teeth. You think that your body looks bad. It's all about your past. They think, you don't have enough money, or you have a traumatic upbringing that you'll never get over. But the truth is, it's not about any of these flaws. It's the identity that you build around it. Let me explain. So, for me specifically, when I was growing up, I'd say my biggest insecurity was my height, especially in like elementary school. I remember I was like the third shortest kid in class. I kind of say that with pride because I wasn't the shortest. I wasn't like the second to last shortest. I was the third shortest. And when you're a kid, height does feel like status, right? Because the taller kids get picked first out on recess. They kind of look older. They seem more dominant, more capable. And yeah, even like teachers seem to like slightly treat them differently, right? And I could see that, and I internalized it, right? We were ordered many times by our height too, just in an order, right? It's weird. But I thought short people, lower status. Short is less attractive. Short is a disadvantage in life. So what did I end up doing? Well, I avoided girls that I liked, just as an example. I mean, I really withdrew and became very shy, but I also avoided girls. I pre-rejected myself. Like, I wouldn't even try to approach or even befriend many people. And it's not because these people rejected me or they thought I was weird, but because I assumed that they would reject me. And that's important, is I wasn't actually being rejected at all. I was just self-eliminating just because that's what I thought about myself. Like, I made myself a victim, whether it mattered to anyone or not. The reason, it didn't matter, right? And as I got older, of course, something weird happened. So the kids, even the couple, my friends that were shorter than me, right? They started dating, as soon as junior high. And I guess I followed a little bit after. And one of my friends that was slightly shorter than me, his name is Nick. He asked me one day after school if I was ever going to tell one of the girls that I had a crush on her. Her name was like Stephanie. And he knew I had a crush on her and was so nice enough to even ask me, and just decided to straight up ask, are you ever going to ask her out? And I told him, no, like, I don't think I would. And then right the next day, like the next morning, all the kids were talking about how Nick asked her out, and everyone's like, whoa. And, I had no one to blame but myself, because I saw myself as a victim. So I pre-disqualified myself before anything, right? She could have liked me too. Who knows, right? So even back then, guys slightly shorter than me were still, boyfriend, girlfriend, and some had no issue at all with it, right? The, height was no big thing. And I started noticing something else, of course, there's, just as you are exposed to more people, there's going to be shorter women later in the world, obviously, right? So even from high school, of course, to college, it's a big change. You're going to meet so many more different people. There's going to be a shorter girl, so don't worry. And even women that are taller than you, right? I've dated some of them, and a lot of them don't care as much as like the insecure guy thinks they do, right? So what changed, right? Well, height didn't necessarily change first. My belief did. And through that, I realized something just more powerful. And it was the insecurity that I was carrying was actually louder than my height. People weren't reacting to my size, which was somewhat average. They were reading into my hesitation, my lack of presence, just my self-doubt shining through above all, me being avoidant to anything positive, really. It was my inability to just relax and be myself. And that's when everything started to click, when I finally realized I was holding myself back on this level. Once I met more people, kind of helped break me out of this shell. But there's a classic study I want to talk about where these researchers with some school, the social psychologist was Robert Kleck. And participants in this study were given actually a prosthetic scar on their face before a job interview. So right before walking in, the researchers actually removed this entirely. They basically said, we're going to touch this up right before you walk in, but they removed it. And the people being interviewed still thought they had the scar. And they reported like, oh, the interviewee was staring at me. They treated me different. They seemed uncomfortable towards me, but there was actually no scar. And this was the point of the experiment, right? So what's the takeaway? Like, the only flaw was in that person's self-concept of them thinking they had a scar. So in essence, you walk in believing I'm the short guy, I'm the awkward person, I'm that guy with the crooked teeth, I'm, damaged goods, I'm just super broken beyond repair, or even like I'm a race or ethnicity that person hates, right? All of these beliefs, depend on, or your micro behaviors stem from these beliefs, right? You might overcompensate, you might apologize subtly, or you seek reassurance constantly, or you try too hard. You get triggered by things that really weren't meant to offend you, or you just don't even try at all, and you completely go like anarchy. People don't actually feel your flaw like you do. They feel your relationship to it to see if it's okay in a weird way. So this is the twist that most people don't really talk about. So I'm excited to share that with you guys today. And the thing about my past is I remember distinctly some of the girls I dated, of course, had flaws, like a slightly crooked tooth or something, or being shy, the socially awkward type, even like the tomboys, like no makeup, messy hair, like hair up in a bun, a little bit insecure, traumatic history, upbringing stuff. And when I realized, I just would sit next to them, I'd be like, something strange would happen. It could happen a couple times. And I'd notice, of course, that imperfection about them. And it wasn't like a negative thing. It was like neutral. But over time, that neutrality turned to like an image of beauty to me. That crooked tooth became, something as just a part of her amazing smile that completed it and made it unique. Her shyness became softness. That awkwardness was like endearing to see. Seeing her without makeup felt very intimate and just real. And I think the natural beauty hits different above all. To me, it's like multiple signals, right? Like it signals comfort, it signals that authenticity, and it just says like, this is me. And when someone is comfortable in their imperfection too, that they're able to show you that, it stops reading as like just a defect, and it starts just reading into like their uniqueness in a way. But, on the other hand, like if someone is perfect and constantly insecure, that's super unattractive, right? Maybe you guys have dealt with this, like 10 out of 10 model girls. And I've dated girls who were genetically blessed too. And their like insecurity would just make them shrink, right? And it's hard to feel attracted to someone who's constantly arguing against what you see in them. And, for them, it goes opposite too, because they don't believe you when you tell them that they're beautiful. And they think that you're just going to leave them because they've never had someone tell them that they're beautiful, like really. And before you know it, they sabotage the relationship because, being told they're beautiful is completely foreign to them. They don't know how to be with someone that actually tries to like build them up instead of like constantly tearing them down. Like that's what's normal to them. So anything good, they just sabotage it because they think it's evil. It's crazy programming, right? But that's when I realized that attraction is filtered through self-perception. Now, here is where I was like flawed in a different way. I think this will help explain it a little bit better. So I used to be the nice guy, like the fixer. Like I'm going to fix this girl and all her traumas, right? I dated so many women with so much traumas in their past, really sad shit. Women who felt like they just weren't enough. Women who needed kind of reassurance constantly, or at least I thought they did. And I thought, I'll show them real love. Like I'll fix this and help heal them, right? Like it's kind of pathetic, but I'm like, I will save her. Like this was my, modus operandi. And, the fact is I wasn't confident myself. I wasn't grounded myself. I was still insecure about my own flaws. So what was I really doing, right? I was trying to earn worthiness by fixing someone else when, I was just insecure myself and not feeling like a real man, really. And I think insecure people do attract insecure dynamics too. So two people trying to compensate instead of, two people choosing each other, the difference. It's not like two half-broken people coming together to make one, right? It's two whole people who are self-sufficient, but love, share, and come together to support life, right? It's that wholeness to start with that is the big goal, right? So that's the solution, honestly. You can't have two broken people come together. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the looks maxing community, because there's this modern idea that attraction is like pure mathematics and golden ratios, you know, like their jaw width, the canthal tilt of their eyes, or their height percentile, right? Symmetry ratios, all this type of crap, right? And sure, biology does matter. Like, you know, I'm not going to argue this, but here's what I've seen in real life that tells a different story. People ultimately just have wildly different preferences. It's not the same for everyone, like emotional preferences, attachment-based preferences, even like cultural preferences. Like, let me tell you, after being here in the Philippines for about a year now, I can tell you that an average Canadian or like American, like just average white guy gets tons of women falling over them for their looks, like for their looks. Like, I'm talking like a creepy looking, you know, standard basic old white guy has women fawning over their like basic white guy features and even their personality. Like, it's almost complete opposite here. Like, even going into physical features in America, like for example, having like a big pointy nose, most people will say, yeah, it's unattractive. Like, you don't necessarily want it. But in the Philippines, they adore it because out here they have flat noses, like flat, small noses. But, you know, if you don't believe me, just ask a Filipina. But, you know, the thing is, the lesson here is preferences differ. And what matters is actually how you conduct yourself for who you are unapologetically, right? So confidence really changes how your face reacts to other people. And even with our mirror neurons, people can subconsciously feel the emotions of someone like yourself just by seeing that face and picking up on the expression. So, like, are you going to be happy and beget happy people around you? Or are you going to project like a miserable face because that's what you want, is misery for yourself? Because the fact is, competence changes how your body reacts, your body language, for example. And positive energy changes how your voice lands to other people, right? So you can take two men with identical facial structures. You can have one of those guys who believes that he's low value, like truly believes he's low value, and he will look lower value. The one who believes he's, you know, higher value will look more attractive even to others. That's not delusional. That's just posture, eye contact, tone, and their behavior, right? Self-concept and the consequences of your inner dialogue leaks out from you and your, you know, what you bring to it, what you bring to the interaction, right? Whether you know it or not. So if you treat your flaw like it's a disqualifier, you will act disqualified from whatever the social engagement is. And if you treat your flaw like it's a feature, you'll act selectable. It's something that makes you unique, right? And people will follow accordingly. So keeping a victim mindset towards something that you perceive as ugly will make you resent that about yourself or even others, right? And resentment creates that tension. And tension kind of creates that awkward behavior that people don't really, you know, it just makes you get rejected more, right? And then you say, see, it was my flaw. And in reality, no, it was actually your identity, how you wrapped it around that flaw. It wasn't actually that to begin with. It's how you acted. And, you know, I didn't wake up and think that I'm perfect one day either. I don't think I'm perfect. But I actually just stopped treating my flaws and differences like it was a sentence for the rest of my life. I started thinking, you know, people like different things. I can optimize what I can. I can work towards what I want to look like. I can improve my habits. I can build my own competence and be healthy and feel good. I can carry myself better and just feel happy. I can feel happy to be with myself even. And I embrace the idea that that uniqueness beats perception, right? So when you're neutral about your flaws, people decide for themselves, right? So when you're ashamed, you are so negative that you decide for them. And that's the difference. You turn it into a negative based on your actions, right? So here's what to do. Stop like self-disqualifying yourself like I did when I should have asked that girl out, right? And then my friend did. Don't pre-reject yourself just because of some stupid reason, right? Optimize what you can, whether it's fitness, grooming, your hygiene, style, social skills, your posture. You can optimize all of these things and it's going to help you and you're going to feel better for doing it. So do it. for yourself at least. But above all, drop that victim narrative. Manage your inner dialogue and that inner voice, and challenge the false beliefs that instilled in you, really, or the things that you believe about yourself. Challenge those. No one holds on to these judgments through the entire lifetime except for you. No one knows all these judgments you've carried. So realize this. The world is not actually rejecting you for your height, your teeth, or your past, or whatever stupid thing. Individuals are selecting based on preference. And, lots of people have lots of different preferences. And the truth is, at the end of the day, no one really wants to be with someone who's constantly negative, especially when it's emanating from their inner kind of dialogue and their inner voice. So let people choose. Some people won't like you. Some people won't like me. Some people are haters in the comments, right? Some people will love you. And your job isn't universal approval. It's alignment with yourself. You'll find your crowd. You will, you just have to put yourself out there at the end of the day and be confident enough to do that. So do the things that you love, and even do the things you don't even necessarily love, right? Get a gym membership. Talk to a few meatheads. Even if you walk into that gym with a big beer belly and some basketball shorts, there will be nice people at the gym, like similar to me, giving you respect just for showing up. The only person that's really holding you back is yourself. And that's my past. I can imagine myself in those same shoes. So to those people thinking they're walking around with a hideous scar, you're walking around with the wrong story. And that story is shaping everything. How you stand, how you speak, how you flirt, how you text, how you pursue, how you retreat from life. The question isn't, what's wrong with me? The real question is, what identity am I carrying into every interaction that I have in my daily life? Because the flaw might not even be there, or might not even be apparent to other people. But that belief you have about yourself, that's exactly what they feel when they experience interacting with you. So that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Have you ever interacted with a girl who's like a 10 out of 10, and either their personality ruined it, like ruined the entire experience, or even though they were like 10 out of 10 perfect, they just couldn't believe it when you told them how beautiful they were. Like they just couldn't imagine that someone would think that about them. Like, have you ever had a girl sabotage a relationship on you because you actually cared for them? Let me know. I don't know. Were you the nice guy in the past too? Let's talk about it. Anyways, thank you guys so much for the time. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.